Welcome to the job, Nick.
All right, Tal Heinrich is the spokesperson for the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office, and she joins us here on the set, and it's good to have you on. I just want to start off with your response to what's reported, and I'm sure you guys have heard from your team in Israel as well, the phone call today and how the Prime Minister was treated by his most important ally.
As far as I know, Rob, it was a good call. It was a good conversation. Washington and Jerusalem continue to see eye to eye on the necessity to eliminate Hamas. President Biden, well, he understands and he appreciates supports Israel's right to defend itself.
Right.
And we all want to see our stolen people, the hostages, back home. And both Washington and Jerusalem want to see minimal civilian casualty and civilian suffering on the Palestinian side as Israel is working on accomplishing these war objectives. I can tell you that our cabinet just convened until now it's late hour in Israel, burning the midnight oil, so to say. And they just announced that also following the conversation, we all want to better the aid distribution mechanism, the humanitarian aid, even though it's not Israel's responsibility, but we want to see a smoother mechanism there. And we decided to open the maritime port in Ashdod for more humanitarian aid to flow in, and also the Erez crossing, which is a border crossing in the northern part of Gaza Strip, a pedestrian crossing, that more aid could be inspected and funneled in. Just to remind you, this is one of the crossings that Hamas and the terrorist Palestinian Islamic Jihad stormed on October 7th.
Right. Do you think you get a fair shake? And I know you have to be very careful about how you say things. I understand your position here. You can't be too political. But it's the narrative around your response, your country's response to this is rapidly changing in the West. I personally don't think it's a fair shake at all, given what you guys are dealing with and what happened to you 6-7 months ago now. Do you worry about that? I mean, it's the narrative here is rapidly changing, and you have a president here that has political pressure on him. He's moving away. I know you don't want to admit that, but he's moving away from your country, and his support is moving away. Did you feel that at all today in that phone call? I mean, they're saying they want a ceasefire. They're saying that he's going to determine his level of support for your country based on how you respond to what he said today.
Well, that's for the Americans, to explain exactly what was meant. But we can sit here in New York and talk about narratives, but on the ground in Israel, our soldiers, our people are fighting to stay alive. So there's one thing to talk about the PR war, about getting better handshakes at the United Nations corridors, more likes on social media. But trust me, Rob, Israelis, they are fighting to stay alive. We faced, and we still face, an existential genocidal threat called Hamas. We decided that after 16 years in which they've been in power in Gaza, they brought misery on the Palestinian people, bloodshed, terrorism on us. That's it. We no longer agree to life next to this terrorist enclave. So yes, the PR war, that's one scene, but we're fighting to stay alive.
Israeli Economic Minister Nir Barkat was on MSNBC this morning and was pressed on why Netanyahu has been supporting the Qatari funding of Hamas. It was actually, from a show I don't particularly like too much, it was a pretty interesting question. Evidently, the Prime Minister sent a message that Qatar should continue to fund Hamas just weeks before the October 7th attack, which sounds crazy, but listen to it and listen to the explanation here.
Have most of the Israeli people always looked upon Hamas as Nazis?
Well, some of the people in Israel, because we seek peace, thought maybe one day they will prefer peace than war.
Why did Benjamin Netanyahu send the head of Mossad to Doha 3 weeks before the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust and told Qatar to continue funding Hamas?
I think, if anything, October 7 shattered that concept.
So the explanation, he went further there, and we didn't capture the entire thing, but the explanation was that, this was basically trying to just buy peace. That Netanyahu was trying to, Qatar funds Hamas, which, in some ways, I guess, takes care of the Gaza people, the Palestinian people inside the Gaza Strip, that they were trying to buy peace. What is your explanation for that? Because people hear that and they're like, that's a crazy thing to hear.
So, alluding that the prime minister was trying to empower, strengthen Hamas, I don't know what this was. This is completely false. The prime minister, after the Disengagement Act in 2005, he resigned, and he was the one who predicted that Gaza will become Hamastan. He was the first one to compare Hamas and say Hamas is ISIS. Hamas is ISIS. In 3 previous rounds of conflicts in Gaza, he hit Hamas very hard, including now. And I think maybe before we're talking about Qatar, let's ask how come American taxpayer money ended up also building somehow these tunnels and the terror infrastructure in Gaza. So I think we should look forward now, and also not to mention UNRWA. We know that UNRWA, the money that the world gives UNRWA.
We fund the UN. We've opened up money for Iran, and I understand. I mean, the mistakes that this country has made in the Middle East are just embarrassing, and they always are. And a lot of them changed under Trump, and that was great. But now we've moved backwards again with Biden. But specifically to, I mean, what was that? I mean, the allegation there is it just that, was that kind of the way it works? You have to just kind of, to try and keep peace inside that strip, you have to at least, you have to let him be funded somehow? I mean, is there any explanation?
Whatever this was, we know that it doesn't work. And moving forward, we know that the reconstruction of Gaza and the day after Hamas will have to be intertwined with de-radicalization of the Palestinian society. Because we talked about UNRWA, we just brought it up. We can't have generation after generation of Palestinians being educated by an entity that tells them to glorify martyrs, to think of themselves as refugees of wars that they themselves started. And until when? Until Israel will cease to exist.
Right. Yeah. The cancer has to be killed. We all agree on that. Tal, thank you so much for joining us. Good to see you as always.
Thank you, Rob.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Dejobnik signing off.